The chandelier cast fractured light across marble floors where power lived and died in silence. She shouldn't have spoken. A maid defending a queen in a room full of wolves. But Bianca Ferraro had watched humiliation carve itself into too many faces, and when the Mafia boss's mother flinched, something ancient and reckless ignited in her chest. Alessio Romano's eyes found hers across the chaos, dark, unreadable, ink-marked knuckles frozen mid-reach. In that breath between catastrophe and reckoning their fates collided. If you believe love can grow in the shadows of power, where loyalty costs everything and obsession wears the mask of protection, please like, share and subscribe. The slap of expensive heels against imported stone echoed through the Romano estate like gunshots. Bianca kept her eyes down, silver tray balanced perfectly as she navigated the corridor. 3 years working in this house had taught her invisibility. The art of being present but unseen. Necessary but forgettable. Did you hear? Another maid whispered as they passed. Signora Valentina is hosting the Rossi family tonight. Bianca's stomach tightened. The Rossis were old money tangled with older grudges. Nothing good came from their visits. She entered the grand hall and her breath caught despite herself. Alessio Romano stood near the fireplace, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. The flames painted shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angle of his jaw, the controlled stillness that made weaker men confess sins unprompted. His shirt was rolled to his elbows, exposing forearms marked with Italian script that wound across his skin like promises written in flesh. Fedeltà soprattutto. Loyalty above all. The tattoo caught the light as he lifted his glass, muscles shifting beneath the ink. Bianca. The head housekeeper's sharp voice cut through her distraction. Wine service. Now. She moved through her duties mechanically, filling crystal glasses for people who'd never learned her name. The Rossis arrived like a storm. Loud, entitled, dripping with jewelry that cost more than her annual salary. Isabella Rossi swept in wearing cruelty like haute couture. Valentina. Her voice was honey laced with arsenic. Still pretending this crumbling empire matters? Alessio's mother, Valentina Romano, stood with grace that came from surviving decades in a world designed to break women. Silver threaded through her dark hair. Strength lived in every carefully chosen word. Isabella. How unexpected. Translation, unwelcome. The tension crystallized, sharp enough to draw blood. Bianca refilled glasses, a ghost moving through their warfare. She'd learned to read the language of powerful people. The slight curl of a lip, the deliberate pause, the way Alessio's tattooed fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around his glass when Isabella's husband made a comment about fading relevance. I remember when this family commanded respect, Isabella continued, circling Valentina like a predator. Before your husband's mistakes. Careful. Alessio's voice was soft. Ew. The single word silenced the room. His eyes were obsidian, dark, reflective, giving nothing away. The tattoo across his collarbone peeked above his open collar. Another line of Italian script that Bianca had glimpsed once. Il silenzio è potere. Silence is power. He wielded both like weapons. Isabella smiled, undeterred. Oh, Alessio. Still protecting her? How tender. She turned back to Valentina. Tell me, does it haunt you? Knowing your choices destroyed everything your husband built. Valentina's composure cracked for a heartbeat. Just one. But in their world, a heartbeat was enough. My husband's legacy, Isabella pressed. Was he ashamed? Before the heart attack took him, did he tell you how your weakness? Enough. Alessio moved then, a controlled shift that still managed to dominate the space. But Isabella had tasted blood. She was always too soft. Too emotional. Even now, look at her. I said enough. The temperature dropped. Men in expensive suits tensed. Hands drifted toward concealed weapons. But Isabella Rossi had come for a specific kind of violence. Your mother, she said, voice carrying across marble and malice, is the reason your father died ashamed. The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Valentina's face drained of color. Not from shame. From old grief weaponized. Bianca's fingers tightened on the wine bottle. She'd served in this house long enough to know the truth. Valentina Romano had loved her husband until his last breath. Had held his hand through every dark decision, every impossible choice. Had buried him with a dignity that would have made saints weep. Isabella was rewriting history with venom. Pathetic, Isabella continued. Clinging to a dead man's name while your son runs the family into. The wine bottle slipped. No, not slipped. Bianca set it down deliberately, the crystal base striking marble with a sharp crack that interrupted Isabella's monologue. Every eye turned to her. Alessio's gaze locked onto hers with an intensity that stopped her heart. She'd broken the first rule. Never. Draw. Bang. But Valentina's hands were trembling, and Bianca had watched her own mother humiliated once. Had stood silent while someone with power and poison destroyed a good woman with words designed to cut. Never again. Forgive me, Signora Rossi. Bianca's voice was steady despite the earthquake in her chest. But you're standing on the rug your criticism just soiled. Silence detonated. Isabella's face contorted. Excuse me. The antique Persian rug. Bianca gestured calmly. 16th century. Valentina Romano restored it herself after it was damaged in a fire. Took her 3 years. Your heel is currently pressing into the section she hand-repaired. It was true. Bianca had watched Valentina work on that rug in the early mornings, fingers careful and reverent, preserving something beautiful when everything else was falling apart. How dare a servant? The craftsmanship is remarkable. Bianca continued as if Isabella hadn't spoken. But delicate. I'd hate to see it damaged by carelessness. The subtext was clear. You're the careless thing here. Alessio's expression hadn't changed, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition. Surprise. Something sharper. His tattooed hand set down the whiskey glass with controlled precision. Isabella's face flushed crimson. Do you know who I am? Yes, Signora. Which is why I'm certain you'd never intentionally disrespect Signora Valentina's home or her work. Bianca met her gaze directly. Would you? The challenge hung there, wrapped in politeness sharp as a blade. One of the Rossi men moved forward. This maid just defended beauty and craftsmanship. Valentina's voice cut through, stronger now. Qualities you wouldn't recognize, Isabella, if they were tattooed across your soul. The room held its breath. Isabella's smile was pure hatred. You let servants speak for you now? How the mighty have fallen. No. Valentina stepped forward, spine straight. I let truth be spoken regardless of who voices it. A concept foreign to you. The standoff stretched. Taut. Dangerous. Then Alessio moved. He crossed to his mother in 3 strides, his presence a wall of controlled violence. The tattoo on his neck became visible as he bent slightly, murmuring something in Italian against her temple. When he straightened, his gaze swept the room. Landed on Isabella. Leave. Not a request. An execution order delivered in silk. Alessio. Yow. The Rossis left like roaches when lights flick on, quickly, resentfully, already plotting their return. The door closed. The silence that followed was different. Charge. Bianca's hands started shaking then. Delayed shock. She'd just confronted one of the most dangerous women in their world. Worse, she'd embarrassed her in front of witnesses. She was dead. Fired at minimum. Disappeared at worst. Bianca. Alessio's voice wrapped around her name like smoke. She turned slowly. Met his eyes. He stood 5 feet away, the firelight painting his tattooed forearms in gold and shadow. His expression was unreadable, but his focus was absolute. Consuming. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've witnessed in this house. Her chin lifted despite her fear. Your mother didn't deserve that. No. His agreement was quiet. She didn't. Valentina touched Bianca's arm gently. Thank you, Cara, for seeing me as more than a symbol. Tears pressed against Bianca's control. I only spoke truth, Signora. Truth. Alessio's voice carried an edge of something dark. Fascinated. Is often the most dangerous weapon. He was still watching her. Not the way men usually watched maids, through them, past them, around them. This was different. He was cataloging, memorizing, claiming something with his attention alone. Bianca felt exposed. Seen in a way that terrified her. You're dismissed, Valentina said kindly. Rest. Today has been eventful. Bianca fled. She made it to her small room before her knees buckled. The servants' quarters were sparse but clean. A narrow bed. A window overlooking the garden. Everything she owned fit in a single drawer. She pressed her palms against the cool plaster wall and tried to breathe. What had she done? The Rossies would retaliate. They always did. And she, a nobody, a maid, someone without family or protection, had made herself a target. A soft knock interrupted her spiral. Maria, one of the older housekeepers, slipped inside. Are you insane? Probably. Isabella Rossi will have your head. I know. Maria studied her with something like pity. Why? Why would you risk everything for Signora Valentina? Bianca closed her eyes. Saw her own mother's face. Heard the echoes of cruelty from years ago. A different house. A different powerful woman who'd enjoyed humiliation as sport. Because someone should have defended my mother once. Her voice cracked. And no one did. Maria left quietly. Bianca lay awake that night, staring at ceiling cracks that looked like fractures in her carefully built invisibility. She'd been careful for so long. After everything that had happened before, the heartbreak tied to this very family, the pain that still lived under her ribs, she'd learned to be small. Forgettable. Tonight she'd lit herself on fire to keep someone else warm. Morning would bring consequences. She just didn't know what kind. Dawn arrived with frost and dread. Bianca dressed in her black uniform, fingers clumsy with exhaustion. She hadn't slept. Every sound had been potential disaster. Footsteps in the hall, voices raised in anger, the whisper of her name attached to vengeance. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. She descended to the kitchens where the other staff pretended not to stare. Whispers followed her like ghosts. Signora Valentina wants to see you, the head housekeeper announced. Immediately. This was it. Termination. Or worse. Bianca climbed the stairs with the resigned calm of someone walking to their own execution. The Romano estate was beautiful in the morning light. All that marble and history and blood money transformed into something almost holy. She'd miss it. Despite everything. Valentina's private sitting room overlooked the gardens. The older woman stood by the window, silhouetted in gold. You asked for me, Signora? Valentina turned. Her expression was complex. Grief and gratitude and something fiercer. Sit, Cara. Bianca perched on the edge of an antique chair, spine rigid. Do you know why I restored that rug? Valentina asked softly. No, Signora. Because my husband proposed to me on it. In this very room 40 years ago. Her smile was memory and mourning. After he died, I couldn't bear to look at it. The fire damage felt appropriate. Like the universe agreed everything beautiful should burn. Bianca's throat tightened. But then I realized. Valentina's voice strengthened. Destroying it would be letting pain win. So I learned restoration. Spent 3 years fixing something everyone said was ruined beyond saving. She crossed to Bianca, taking her hands. You didn't just defend me yesterday. You defended the idea that broken things deserve care. That history matters. That love leaves marks worth preserving. Tears spilled down Bianca's cheeks. I'm not firing you, Bianca. I'm thanking you. Valentina's grip tightened. But I need you to understand something. The Rossies will come for you. Isabella doesn't forgive public humiliation. I know. My son will protect you. Bianca's heart lurched. Signora, I don't need. It's already done. Valentina's smile was knowing. Alessio has assigned you to my personal detail. You'll work directly for me now. Closer quarters. Better pay. And more importantly, his protection. The room tilted. I can't accept. You already did. The moment you spoke. Valentina's expression softened. In our world, Cara, visibility is currency. You spent yours wisely. Now let us invest in keeping you alive. Alessio's protection manifested in silence. New locks appeared on Bianca's door overnight. A security detail she never saw but always felt shadowing her movements. Small shifts in the household hierarchy that placed her under an umbrella of untouchability. She didn't see him for 3 days. But she felt him everywhere. The weight of his attention like a physical thing pressing against her awareness. She'd catch glimpses, his broad shoulders disappearing around corners, the flash of his tattooed wrist as he passed, the sound of his voice issuing commands in rooms she couldn't enter. On the 4th day, their paths collided in the library. Bianca had been retrieving books for Valentina when she sensed him before seeing him. The air changed, thickened. She turned. Alessio stood in the doorway, backlit by afternoon sun. He'd shed his jacket. His shirt was pristine white, sleeves rolled to reveal those marked forearms. The tattoos seemed darker today, the Italian script almost alive against his skin. Bianca. Her name and his voice did something dangerous to her pulse. Signor Romano. He moved into the room with that controlled grace she'd noticed before. Not rushed. Not slow. Inevitable. You've been avoiding me. I've been working, sir. Don't. His jaw tightened. Don't do that. Do what? Pretend to be invisible. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. You made yourself visible. Own it. Her spine straightened. I defended your mother. I don't regret it. Good. Something flickered across his expression. Neither do I. The silence stretched. Taut. Strange. Why are you protecting me? The question escaped before wisdom could stop it. His gaze intensified. Because you protected what matters to me. Your mother. Yes. But the way he said it, low, almost reverent, suggested layers she couldn't decode. The Rossis will retaliate, she said quietly. Let them try. I'm not worth a war, Signor Romano. His expression darkened. The tattoo on his collarbone shifted as he breathed. Don't tell me what you're worth. The command in his voice sparked something defiant in her chest. You don't know me. No. He stepped closer. Not threatening. Consuming. But I'm learning. Her breath caught. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Not because he'd hurt her physically, but because the way he looked at her made her feel like something more than a ghost in uniform. I should go. She moved toward the door. His hand shot out, not touching her but blocking her path. She could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke and something darker. Bianca. His voice was rough. Why did you really defend my mother? She met his eyes. Saw the real question underneath. Why did you risk everything for us? Because, she whispered, I know what it feels like to watch someone you love be destroyed by people who mistake cruelty for power. Something cracked in his expression. Who? My mother. Years ago. The words tasted like rust. She worked for a family connected to yours. The son, she stopped. Some pain was too old to voice. But Alessio understood. She watched comprehension dawn, followed by something that looked like fury barely leashed. Someone hurt you. Someone broke my mother's heart and mine for sport. Bianca's hands fisted. Your world chews up people like us and spits out the bones. I've made peace with that. But I won't stand silent while it happens in front of me. Not again. The air between them crackled. You think I'm like them? Not a question. An accusation that cut both ways. I think you're the Mafia boss, Signor Romano. I think you've done things that would keep me awake at night. I think your hands, she glanced at his tattooed knuckles, have created damage I can't imagine. He didn't deny it. But I also think, she continued, voice steadying, that you love your mother. And anyone who loves that fiercely can't be completely lost. The silence that followed was profound. Then Alessio did something unexpected. He stepped back, giving her space. Control. You're right, he said quietly. I am dangerous. I've built my life on violence and loyalty and fear. I've made choices that stain my soul. His tattooed hand flexed. But my mother is the last pure thing in my world. And you protected her when I was too paralyzed to act. Bianca's breath shuddered. You would have. Eventually. His smile was bitter. But you were faster. Braver. You stepped between a predator and prey without hesitation. His eyes held hers. That kind of courage is rare. Especially in my world. It was stupid. It was extraordinary. The word wrapped around her like a touch. I don't want your protection because I'm convenient or because it serves some strategy, Bianca said. If you're doing this out of obligation. It's not obligation. Then what is it? He was silent for a long moment. Then, I don't know yet. The honesty was more dangerous than lies. Bianca nodded slowly. I need to return to Signora Valentina. This time he let her pass. But as she reached the door, his voice stopped her. Bianca. She turned. The afternoon light caught the ink across his forearms, the Italian words that spoke of loyalty and silence and power. He looked like something carved from marble and shadow. beautiful and terrible and utterly controlled. Thank you, he said, for seeing her as more than my weakness. Her heart cracked. She's your strength, Signor Romano. Anyone who can't see that is blind. She left before he could respond. But she felt his gaze follow her down the hall like a brand. Valentina noticed immediately. He's watching you. The older woman's observation was gentle as they worked together in her sitting room that evening. Bianca's hands stilled on the embroidery she'd been organizing. Signora. My son. He watches you the way his father watched me once. Like you're a puzzle he can't solve but refuses to abandon. He's just ensuring my safety. Valentina's laugh was knowing. Oh, Cara. You're intelligent enough to know that's not all it is. Bianca's chest tightened. It can't be anything else. Why not? Because I'm a maid. He's the head of a mafia family. Because this world doesn't allow. She stopped, overwhelmed. Valentina set down her book. This world doesn't allow many things. Love, mercy, second chances. But they happen anyway. She paused. Tell me about the son. The one who hurt you before. Bianca's blood ran cold. How did you? I've lived in this house 40 years. I know which families employed your mother. I can guess which young men were cruel. Valentina's voice was gentle. Was it Marco De Luca? The name was a knife. Bianca's silence was confirmation. Oh, Cara. Valentina's expression softened with grief. I heard whispers. Your mother worked for them. Their son pursued you, made promises. Then destroyed both of you when his family arranged his marriage. He said he loved me. The words tasted like ashes. He said our difference in status didn't matter. Then he married a senator's daughter and told me I'd been practice. Bianca's laugh was broken. My mother was fired for letting her daughter get ideas above her station. She died 6 months later. Heart attack. But I know better. Broken heart, Valentina whispered. Yes. And you came here anyway. To work for another powerful family. I needed to survive. And I thought, Bianca swallowed hard. I thought maybe if I stayed invisible, stayed careful, I could exist without being destroyed again. But then I was humiliated and you couldn't stay silent. No. Valentina reached for her hand. Alessio is nothing like Marco De Luca. He's exactly like him. Powerful. Dangerous. From a world where people like me are disposable. My husband was from that world. Valentina's voice carried old steel. He was violent. Feared. Marked by the same ink that covers my son. But he loved me with a ferocity that rewrote his entire code. She squeezed Bianca's hand. Don't mistake Alessio's control for coldness. He's protecting you because he sees something worth protecting. And when my son sees value, he claims it absolutely. I'm not something to be claimed. No. You're someone who deserves to be chosen. Valentina's smile was sad. I just hope you'll let yourself be when the time comes. The time came sooner than anyone expected. A week after the library confrontation, Bianca was returning from the market when she noticed the car. Expensive. Windows tinted. Following her for 3 blocks. Her pulse spiked. She ducked into a cafe, pulse hammering. Through the window, she watched 2 men exit the vehicle. Rossi soldiers. She recognized one from Isabella's security detail. They were hunting her. Bianca's phone was basic. No smartphone, no apps, just calls and texts. Her fingers shook as she found the number Valentina had insisted she save. Alessio Romano, emergency only. She hesitated. Calling him felt like crossing a line. Admitting she needed him in a way that went beyond professional courtesy. The Rossi soldiers entered the cafe. She dialed. He answered on the first ring. Bianca. I'm being followed. Her voice was remarkably steady given the terror flooding her system. Rossi men. There. Where are you? She told him. Stay visible. Stay in public. I'm 2 minutes away. The line went dead. Bianca ordered a coffee she didn't want, hands shaking around the cup. The Rossi soldiers positioned themselves by the door. Not approaching. Not threatening. Just making it clear she was trapped. Isabella's message was obvious. You embarrassed me. Now you'll pay. The cafe door opened. Alessio walked in like a storm-given human form. He wore all black today. Jacket perfectly tailored. The tattoo on his neck visible above his collar. His presence dominated the space immediately. The way dangerous men always do, simply by existing. His eyes found hers. Something passed between them. Recognition. Relief. Something fiercer. Then he turned to the Rossi soldiers. The temperature dropped 30 degrees. Gentlemen. His voice was silk over razor wire. You're following someone under my protection. We're just having coffee, Romano. In the same cafe where Bianca Ferraro happens to be having coffee. What a coincidence. The soldier smirked. Signora Rossi sends her regards. And I send mine. Alessio's smile was terrifying. Tell Isabella that if anyone touches Bianca, I'll consider it a declaration of war. And unlike her husband, I don't negotiate. One maid isn't worth. Choose your next words carefully. The command was quiet. Absolute. Because they'll determine whether you leave this cafe on your feet or in pieces. The threat wasn't empty. Everyone knew it. The soldiers exchanged glances. Then retreated. Bianca released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Alessio crossed to her table. Sat down across from her like they did this every day. You're shaking. I'm fine. His tattooed hand reached across the table. Stopped just short of touching hers. You called me. You said emergency only. And you believed men following you qualified as an emergency. His voice carried something warm. Please. Good. I didn't know what else to do. You did exactly right. His gaze was intense. From now on you don't go anywhere alone. Understood. I can't live in a cage. I'm not caging you. I'm keeping you alive. His jaw tightened. The Rossis won't stop. Isabella wants blood. And she's decided yours will satisfy her wounded pride. Because I defended your mother. Because you made her look weak in front of witnesses. In our world, perception is power. You damaged hers. She'll want to damage you in return. Bianca's coffee had gone cold. What happens now? Now I make it clear that touching you is suicide. You can't start a war over a maid. His expression darkened. Stop calling yourself that. It's what I am. No. He leaned forward, voice dropping. You're the woman who stood between a predator and my mother without hesitation. You're the woman who speaks truth when everyone else whispers lies. You're the woman who's been terrorized by my world before and still chose bravery over silence. His intensity stole her breath. You're not a maid to me, Bianca. He stopped. Seemed to wrestle with something. You're under my protection. Permanently. Why? The question was barely a whisper. His tattooed hand finally moved. Covered hers. The touch was electric, calloused skin, controlled strength, heat that radiated up her arm and settled in her chest. Because I can't stop thinking about you. The confession was raw. Because you defended what I love most in this world. Because when I watched you confront Isabella Rossi, I saw something I didn't know still existed. Genuine courage without calculation. Bianca's pulse was thunder. Alessio. I know it's not logical. I know it's dangerous for both of us. I know I'm the last person who should. He stopped. Composed himself with visible effort. But I protect what's mine. And you, Bianca Ferraro, are mine to protect now. Not a question. A declaration. She should pull away. Should tell him this was impossible. Should remind him and herself that she'd survived Marco De Luca's betrayal once and couldn't survive another. Instead she whispered, I'm not yours. His thumb traced her knuckles. Not yet. The promise in those two words was devastating. Alessio assigned her a driver. A bodyguard who looked like he bench-pressed cars for fun. And most dangerous of all, he started appearing in places she worked. Not overtly. Not in ways others would notice. But Bianca felt him. When she was in the garden with Valentina, he'd be in his office, visible through the window. When she was organizing the library, he'd happen to need a specific book. When she was in the kitchen helping prepare dinner, he'd materialize for coffee. Always at a distance. Always careful. But always watching. He's falling for you, Maria whispered one afternoon. We all see it. Don't be ridiculous. I've worked in this house 15 years, Bianca. I've never seen Alessio Romano look at anyone the way he looks at you. Maria's voice was half warning, half wonder. Like you're the only real thing in a house full of ghosts. That night, Bianca stood in the garden under stars that didn't care about class or power or impossible feelings. She felt him before she heard him. You should be inside. Alessio's voice came from behind her. It's not safe in the dark. Your men are everywhere. I'm perfectly safe. Are you? She turned. He stood at the edge of the garden, dressed in dark pants and a white shirt that made his tattoos stand out like brands. The ink on his forearms seemed to glow in the moonlight. What are you doing out here? She asked. Making sure you're protected. Personally? Yes. Her heart hammered. Why? He moved closer. 2 steps. Then 3. Until only a few feet separated them. Because I don't trust anyone else with your safety. His voice was rough. Because I've made a career out of reading threats and eliminating them, and every instinct I have says the Rossis will try again. He paused. And because I can't sleep knowing you're out here alone. I'm not alone. I'm with your shadow army. It's not enough. What would be enough? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they weren't saying. Alessio's jaw tightened. I don't know. But I'm working on it. Bianca wrapped her arms around herself. This is insane. You're a mafia boss. If you say, just a maid again, I will prove exactly how little that matters to me. How? The challenge escaped before wisdom could stop it. His eyes darkened. Carefully. The single word was a promise and a threat and a prayer. I can't do this. Bianca's voice cracked. I can't let myself feel. I've been here before, Alessio. The powerful man who notices the poor girl. Who makes her believe she matters. Then reality hits and she's destroyed while he moves on unscathed. Understanding washed over his features. Marco De Luca. She flinched. How? My mother told me. Not details. Just enough. His hands fisted. I want to kill him for hurting you. He's married. Happy. Probably doesn't remember my name. I remember everything about you. The intensity in his voice shook her. The way you stood in front of my mother. The tilt of your chin when you're being brave. The fact that you take your coffee with too much sugar and read poetry when you think no one's watching. He stepped closer. I see you, Bianca. All of you. Not a maid. Not a convenience. You. Tears burned her eyes. That makes it worse. Why? Because I want to believe you. The confession tore out of her. And believing you means risking everything I rebuilt after Marco shattered me. Alessio was silent for a long moment. Then, what if I risk first? What? You're afraid I'll destroy you. But what if I hand you the weapon first? His voice was quiet. Devastating. What if I tell you that you've already become something I can't stop thinking about? That I lay awake at night imagining ways to keep you safe, make you smile, earn the right to touch you without you flinching? He paused. What if I admit that you have more power over me than any enemy I've ever faced? Her breath stopped. You could destroy me, Bianca. With a word. A rejection. And I'd let you. Because for the first time in my life I want something more than power or respect or fear. His tattooed hand lifted, hovering near her face without touching. I want you to look at me and see possibility instead of pain. A tear slipped down her cheek. Alessio caught it with his thumb. The gentleness of the touch destroyed her. I'm terrified, she whispered. So am I. You're not afraid of anything. I'm afraid of hurting you. I'm afraid of being another man who makes promises I can't keep. I'm afraid that my world will swallow you whole and I won't be able to stop it. His voice roughened. But I'm more afraid of not trying. Of letting fear steal something that could be extraordinary. We barely know each other. Then let me learn. His hand cupped her face fully now. Let me earn your trust. Fully. Carefully. Whatever it takes. Bianca closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite every warning screaming in her head. This is dangerous. Everything worth having is. She opened her eyes. Met his gaze in the moonlight. If you hurt me, I will spend the rest of my life making amends. Alessio. He kissed her forehead. Just that. A single, chaste press of lips to skin that felt more intimate than anything she'd experienced. Slowly, he murmured against her skin. We'll go slowly. And if you want to stop, we stop. Your choice. Always. The kiss, the promise, the way he held her face like she was something precious. It unraveled every defense she'd built. Okay, she whispered. Slowly. His smile was beautiful and terrible. Slowly. But they both knew it was a lie. There was nothing slow about the way they were already falling. The next 2 weeks were torture disguised as restraint. Alessio kept his word. He didn't push. Didn't pressure. But his presence became a constant in her life. Protective, attentive, quietly devastating. He'd appear in the morning with coffee exactly how she liked it. Leave books he thought she'd enjoy on her desk. Stand close enough in hallways that she could feel his heat but never close enough to trap her. The household noticed. Whispers followed them like smoke. But Valentina smiled like she knew secrets the universe had forgotten. He hasn't looked this alive in years, the older woman observed one afternoon. Bianca was arranging flowers, trying to ignore how her hands shook whenever Alessio was near. He barely speaks to me in public. Because he's a Romano. They love through action, not words. Valentina's voice was knowing. But watch his eyes. Watch where he stands. My son has spent his entire life controlling every variable. Now he's surrendered control to you. I didn't ask for that. Love never asks permission, Kara. It just destroys everything in its path and calls it devotion. That evening, Bianca found a note on her pillow. Garden. Midnight. If you want to. No signature. But she knew the handwriting. Had watched him sign documents, his tattooed knuckles steady and sure. She shouldn't go. It was reckless. Dangerous. She went anyway. The garden was silver under a full moon. Alessio waited by the fountain, dressed in dark clothes that made him look like something carved from shadow. You came. You knew I would. His smile was brief. Hoped. Not knew. She approached slowly. Why midnight? Because during the day I'm the boss. The son. The man who makes decisions that cost lives. He turned to face her fully. But at midnight I'm just Alessio. And I wanted. He stopped, seeming to struggle. I wanted you to meet him. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something in her chest. Hello, Alessio. Her voice was soft. Just Alessio. He breathed like she'd given him absolution. I brought something. He gestured to a blanket spread on the grass, a bottle of wine, 2 glasses. Nothing elaborate. I just wanted to talk. Really talk. Without the weight of who I'm supposed to be crushing every word. Bianca sat carefully on the blanket. He joined her, maintaining distance. For a while they just existed in comfortable silence. Then Alessio spoke. Tell me about the poetry. What? You read poetry. I see you in the library sometimes, running your fingers over verses like they're treasures. His gaze was curious. Why? No one had ever asked her that before. Because poems say what I can't. The words came slowly. They're small enough to hold but big enough to carry everything that hurts. What hurts? Everything. Nothing. The way you look at me. The way I'm starting to look back. Loneliness, she said instead. Even in a house full of people, I've been alone for so long. His expression shifted. Not anymore. Alessio. I mean it. He poured wine with steady hands. You're not alone. Not while I'm breathing. The promise was too big. Too fast. But God, she wanted to believe it. Tell me about the tattoos, she countered. He glanced at his forearms. The Italian script that wound across his skin like prayers written in flesh. My father started it. Each mark is a vow. He traced one line. Fidelta soprattutto. Loyalty above all. I got this when I took over the family. A reminder that loyalty, to blood, to code, is everything. And this one. She pointed to the ink across his collarbone, visible above his open collar. Il silenzio è potere. Silence is power. His smile was bitter. My father taught me that revealing nothing gives you everything. Control through mystery. Do you believe that? I used to. He met her eyes. But silence around you feels like lying. And I'm tired of lying. Her breath caught. What would you say? If you weren't silent. That you terrify me. The confession was raw. That I've built my entire life on control and certainty, and you make me want to surrender both. That I watch you move through my house and think insane thoughts, like keeping you, protecting you, earning the right to touch you without you flinching. I don't flinch with you. No. His voice dropped. You don't. And that's its own kind of dangerous. The air between them thickened. Tarch. Bianca. He shifted slightly closer. I need you to understand something. I'm not Marco De Luca. I don't make promises I can't keep. I don't play with people's hearts. His tattooed hand lifted, hovering near her face. If I claim you when I claim you, it will be absolute. Permanent. There won't be a society wife waiting in the wings. There won't be family pressure that makes you disposable. How can you promise that? Because I'm the boss. What I say becomes law. And if I say you're mine, his thumb brushed her cheek. Then heaven and hell can't change it. She was shaking. This is insane. Probably. We barely know each other. I know enough. His hand cupped her face. I know you're braver than anyone I've met. I know you see my mother as a person, not a symbol. I know you read poetry and take your coffee too sweet and have eyes that hold storms I want to spend my life learning to calm. Alessio. I'm falling for you, Bianca. The words were quiet. Devastating. And I need you to decide if you're going to catch me or let me shatter. Her heart was a wild thing in her chest. Every logical thought screamed warnings. He was dangerous. Powerful. From a world that chewed up girls like her and spit out bones. But he was also looking at her like she was his last prayer in a faithless world. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. If this goes wrong. It won't. You can't know that. No. He leaned closer, forehead nearly touching hers. But I can promise that if it does break, I'll cut myself on every sharp edge before I let you bleed alone. A sob caught in her throat. Then she was kissing him. Or he was kissing her. Or they were destroying each other with mouths that tasted like wine and desperation and 3 weeks of restrained wanting. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers clutched his shirt, feeling the rapid hammer of his heart beneath fabric and ink. The kiss was not gentle. It was starvation. Flaming. Every fear and desire combusting. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alessio pressed his forehead to hers. Slowly, he gasped. That wasn't slowly. No. His laugh was broken. That was 3 weeks of torture ending. She smiled despite the tears on her cheeks. What happens now? Now. He pulled back to look at her. Now I court you properly. Take you to dinner. Learn everything about you. Prove I'm worth the risk. And the Rossis? His expression darkened. The Mafia boss sliding back over the man. I handle them. You stay safe. Focus on being happy. Together. She needed to hear it. Together. He kissed her again, softer this time. A vow. No more hiding. No more pretending you're just part of the furniture. You're mine, Bianca. And I protect what's mine. The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead it felt like coming home. But homes built on hope are fragile things. And 3 days later, everything shattered. Bianca was working in Valentina's sitting room when the screaming started. Shouting. Male voices. The sound of violence. She ran toward the noise, heart hammering. The grand hall had become a war zone. Alessio stood in the center, face carved from fury, holding a man by the throat. Not a Rossi soldier. Someone else. Someone whose face Bianca recognized with sick dread. Marco De Luca. Her ex-lover. The man who'd destroyed her mother. Who'd whispered promises and delivered only ash. You thought you could take her? Alessio's voice was murder wrapped in silk. You thought you could walk into my house and put your hands on what's mine? Marco's face was purple. I didn't, I was just. You were waiting in the hall where she works. You were reaching for her when my men found you. Alessio's grip tightened. Explain. Now. Bianca's world tilted. Marco's eyes found hers. And she saw it. The same predatory calculation that had destroyed her years ago. I came to apologize, Marco choked out. To make amends for what I did before. I heard she was here. I just wanted to talk. Liar. Alessio slammed him against the wall. The sound echoed like gunshots. You came because you heard rumors. Because you thought you could reclaim what you discarded. Because arrogant men like you believe women are possessions you can revisit whenever convenient. Alessio. Bianca's voice cracked. Don't. He looked at her. And she saw something terrifying in his eyes. Rage so deep it had its own gravity. Did he touch you? No. Your men stopped him before. Before what? His voice dropped to lethal quiet. Before he could put his hands on you? Before he could speak poison disguised as apologies? Before he could try to pull you back into the hell he created? Marco was genuinely afraid now. I made mistakes. But I never meant. You destroyed her mother. You used Bianca for practice and threw her away when a better offer arrived. Alessio's tattooed knuckles pressed against Marco's throat. And now you have the audacity to enter my home, and think you can speak to her? Alessio, please. Valentina appeared face pale. Not like this. Not in front of her. But it was too late. Bianca watched Alessio's control fracture. Watched the careful man she'd kissed 3 nights ago become something else entirely. Something forged from violence and vengeance. You don't get to speak to her. Alessio's voice was barely human. You don't get to look at her. You don't get to breathe the same air. Because she is mine now. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. He threw Marco across the room. The man hit the floor hard. Alessio's men moved in, weapons drawn. Get him out of here, Alessio ordered. And make sure he understands that if he comes within a mile of Bianca Ferraro again, I will personally erase him from existence. Marco was dragged away, still protesting, still lying. Silence fell like a guillotine. Alessio turned to Bianca. His expression was wild, protective and possessive and barely restrained. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Say anything. She couldn't speak. Could only stare at the man she'd started to love and see the violence he'd promised was always there, lurking beneath the surface. Bianca. He stepped toward her. Please. Talk to me. You almost killed him. I should have. Because of me. Because of what he did to you. Alessio's hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Because seeing him in my house near you made me. He stopped. I'm sorry you had to see that. That's what you are. The realization was devastating. Under all the control and care. Your violence waiting for an excuse. His face crumbled. Bianca. I need to think. She fled. Back to her small room where everything was simple and she was just a maid and her heart wasn't being carved into pieces by impossible men who kissed her like salvation and threatened murder in the same breath. She sank onto her bed, hands pressed against her mouth to muffle the sobs. A knock came. Soft. Hesitant. Cora. Valentina's voice. Hey, I. Bianca opened the door. Valentina entered, face full of compassion. He's destroyed over what happened. He destroyed Marco. No. He protected you. There's a difference. Is there? Bianca's laugh was bitter. He lost control. Became exactly what I was afraid of. A dangerous man who solves problems with violence. He became what he's always been, Valentina corrected gently. A man raised in a world where violence is language. But Cora, did you see his hands shaking after? Did you hear the fear in his voice when he asked if you were okay? That doesn't excuse. No, it doesn't. But it explains. Valentina sat beside her. My son has lived his entire life suppressing emotion. Controlling every reaction. He's been taught that feeling too much is weakness. She paused. Until you make him feel. And today when he thought someone from your past was going to hurt you again, all that control shattered. I don't want to be the reason he loses himself. You're not. You're the reason he's finding himself. Valentina's voice was certain. Yes, he's violent. Yes, he's dangerous. But he's also the man who brings you coffee. Who reads poetry to understand you better. Who stands guard in gardens at midnight because he can't sleep knowing you might be unsafe. What if it's not enough? Then you walk away and he survives the loss. But Cora, Valentina took her hands. What if it is? What if this complicated, damaged, fiercely loyal man is exactly who your heart needs? Bianca closed her eyes. Felt tears slip free. I'm so scared. Love is terrifying. Especially when it asks us to trust again after we've been shattered. Valentina's grip tightened. But I've watched my son fall for you. Really fall. And I'm telling you, he would burn this entire world before letting you be hurt again. That's what scares me. I know. Valentina's smile was sad. But maybe, just maybe, it's also what saves you. Bianca didn't leave her room for 2 days. Food appeared at her door. Notes in Alessio's handwriting. I'm sorry. I'm here when you're ready. Take all the time you need. The household operated around her absence. No pressure. No demands. On the 3rd day she found the courage to face him. He was in his office, bent over papers, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. The tattoos on his forearms seemed darker today, the Italian script almost mournful. Alessio. He looked up. Hope and devastation warred in his expression. Bianca. He stood slowly. I'm sorry. For what you saw. For scaring you. For proving every fear you had about me was justified. She stepped into the room. Closed the door. Tell me the truth. About who you are. All of it. He nodded. Gestured to the chair across from his desk. For the next hour he laid himself bare. Told her about his father's death. The blood on his hands from taking over the family. The choices that stained his soul. The violence he'd committed in the name of loyalty and survival. I've killed people, Bianca. His voice was hollow. Not always in self-defense. Sometimes because they were threats to my family. To the order we maintain. I've made decisions that keep me awake at night. He met her eyes. And I won't lie to you. I'd make them again. Because in my world hesitation is death. She absorbed this. And Marco. If I'd killed him it would have been because he hurt you. And yes, that would have been personal. Wrong by any moral standard. His hands fisted. But Bianca, when I saw him in my house reaching for you, his voice cracked. All I could think was that he'd already destroyed you once. And I can't let that happen again. So you'd kill for me? Yes. Even if I didn't want you to? Yes. No hesitation. I'd spend the rest of my life earning your forgiveness, but I'd do it. Because losing you to violence I could have prevented would destroy me more than any guilt. The honesty was brutal. Terrifying. And somehow devastating in its purity. I don't want you to be a monster for me, she whispered. I'm already a monster, Bianca. Have been for years. His smile was broken. You just make me want to be a better one. She stood. Crossed to his side of the desk. He watched her approach with barely restrained hope. I can't love a lie, she said quietly. I can't pretend you're safe or simple or anything other than dangerous. I know. But I also can't deny that you've protected me. Seen me. Made me feel valued when I'd convinced myself I was disposable. You're not. Let me finish. She took a breath. I'm choosing to trust you, Alessio. Not because I'm naive. But because I believe you when you say you'll protect me. Even from yourself if necessary. His eyes were bright. Wet. I won't let you down. You might. People do. She cupped his face, feeling the rasp of stubble against her palm. But I'm choosing to believe that if you do, you'll fight like hell to make it right. He turned his face into her hand. Kissed her palm with devastating gentleness. I love you. The words were rough. Unpracticed. Perfect. I know it's too soon. I know it's insane. But I love you, Bianca Ferraro. And I need you to know that before we go any further. Her heart shattered and rebuilt simultaneously. I'm not there yet, she admitted. I'm close. But I need time too. Take all the time you need. He pulled her into his arms. Held her like she was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. I'll wait. I'll prove it. Every day. Until you believe me. She buried her face in his chest. Felt his heart hammering against her cheek. Slowly, she whispered. Slowly, he agreed. But his arms tightened around her. And they both knew the falling was already complete. The revelation hung between them like a loaded gun. Because what Bianca didn't know, what Alessio had just discovered moments before Marco's arrival, was that Isabella Rossi hadn't sent Marco at all. Someone else had. Someone who knew Bianca's past. Who understood that Marco's appearance would destabilize Alessio's control. And as Bianca rested in his arms, Alessio's phone buzzed with a message that made his blood run cold. She's beautiful when she cries. Let's see how she looks when you can't save her. V. His father's oldest enemy. The one man Alessio had never been able to eliminate. The one man who knew exactly how to destroy him. Through her. Alessio's world narrowed to three things. The woman in his arms, the threat on his phone, and the cold fury crystallizing in his chest. She's beautiful when she cries. Let's see how she looks when you can't save her. V. He'd spent 5 years hunting Vincenzo Moretti. His father's oldest enemy. The ghost who'd orchestrated betrayals, planted bombs, destroyed alliances from the shadows. The one man Alessio had never been able to eliminate because Vincenzo understood something fundamental. You can't kill what you can't find. Kill now. Now Vincenzo had made a mistake. He'd revealed his target. Bianca stirred against his chest. You're tense. What's wrong? Everything. Nothing he could tell her without watching fear replace the fragile trust in her eyes. Just business. He forced his voice steady, fingers gentle in her hair despite the violence screaming through his veins. Nothing for you to worry about. She pulled back, studying his face with those storm-gray eyes that saw too much. You're lying. Bianca. Your jaw does this thing when you lie. It tightens on the left side. Her hand traced the line she'd mentioned. What happened? God, she was observant. Dangerous in her perception. He couldn't tell her. Not yet. Not until he'd secured every variable, eliminated every threat, ensured that Vincenzo's message was bravado rather than imminent action. I promise I'll explain everything. He caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. But right now I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The war in her expression gutted him. The desire to believe battling against hard-learned skepticism. For how long? 24 hours. Give me 1 day to handle something and then I'll tell you everything. No more secrets. She searched his face. Then nodded slowly. 24 hours. But Alessio, if this is about protecting me from something I deserve to know. It is. And you will know. I swear it. He pulled her close again, breathing in the scent of her hair. Memorizing the feel of her against him in case Vincenzo's threat was more than posturing. Go to my mother. Stay with her today. Don't leave the house. You're scaring me. I'm keeping you safe. There's a difference. She left reluctantly, glancing back twice before disappearing down the hall. The moment she was gone, Alessio became someone else entirely. He pulled out his secure phone. Made 3 calls in rapid succession. Marco, I need every man we have on estate security. No one in or out without my direct approval. Luca, pull the traffic camera footage from every street within a 2-mile radius. Someone's been watching the house. Find them. Father Dominic, he paused, jaw tight. I need information on Vincenzo Moretti. Everything you've heard in confession or otherwise. I know you can't break the seal, but if he's planning something against an innocent woman, your silence makes you complicit. The priest's response was careful. Cryptic. But enough. Vincenzo was in the city. Had been for weeks. And he wasn't alone. Alessio's reflection in the office window showed a man carved from controlled violence. The tattoos across his forearms seemed to pulse with dark purpose. Fedeltà soprattutto. Loyalty above all. But what happened when loyalty to family and loyalty to the woman you loved created impossible choices? Bianca found Valentina in the conservatory, tending to orchids with the gentle focus of someone finding peace in small beauties. He's hiding something. Bianca's voice was tight. Something that has him terrified. Valentina's hands stilled. Alessio doesn't terrify easily. That's what scares me. Bianca sank onto a bench, hands twisting in her lap. He asked for 24 hours. Promised to explain everything after. And you're wondering if you should run now before whatever storm is coming hits. How did you? Because I've been you. Valentina set down her pruning shears. When Alessio's father told me the truth about his world, his work, the blood on his hands, I had the same choice. Trust or flee. What made you stay? Love. And something deeper. The older woman's eyes were distant, remembering. The knowledge that running wouldn't make me safe. It would just make me alone when danger found me anyway. Bianca's stomach knotted. You think I'm in danger? I think my son is mobilizing every resource he has. I think I've seen him afraid exactly 3 times in his life. When his father died, when Isabella threatened me, and this morning when you left his office. Valentina crossed to her. Whatever is happening, Cara, you're safer in this house with Alessio's protection than anywhere else in the world. I hate feeling helpless. Then don't be helpless. Be informed. Valentina's expression sharpened. Come with me. She led Bianca through corridors Bianca had never accessed, past security checkpoints where guards nodded respectfully at Valentina, down to a basement level that looked more like a command center than storage. Monitors lined the walls. Maps marked with pins and notations. A weapons cache that made Bianca's breath catch. This is how we survive, Valentina said quietly. Information. Preparation. The willingness to see our world clearly instead of through comforting lies. A man Bianca recognized as Alessio's second-in-command looked up. Signora Valentina. Does Alessio know you're my house, Marco? I go where I please. Her voice carried steel. Show Bianca the threat assessment. Marco hesitated, then pulled up a file on the central screen. Bianca's blood turned to ice. Photos of her. Dozens of them. Walking to the market. In the garden. Through windows of the estate. Time-stamped over the past 3 weeks. Someone had been watching her. Cataloging her movements. Building a pattern. Who? Her voice cracked. We don't know yet. Marco's expression was grim. But they're professional. And they've been very, very patient. Valentina's hand found Bianca's shoulder. This is why Alessio is afraid. Not of what he's done. Of what might be done to you. Bianca stared at her own image, captured in moments she'd believed were private. Anonymous. Safe. What does he want from me? The question was barely a whisper. To hurt my son. Valentina's voice was certain. Alessio has enemies who understand that killing him would be mercy compared to destroying what he loves. I'm not, we've only just, Bianca couldn't finish the sentence. Love doesn't operate on timelines, Cara. And Alessio's enemies know him well enough to recognize when he's fallen. Valentina turned her to face her directly. You have a choice now. Leave and Alessio will ensure you disappear somewhere safe. Or stay and let him protect you while he eliminates this threat. Those aren't real choices. No. But they're the only ones we have. Alessio stood in the warehouse where they'd traced the surveillance photos. He knew. But signs of recent occupation were everywhere. Cigarette butts, takeout containers, a tripod positioned for the perfect angle on the Romano estate. And on the wall written in red paint that looked too much like blood. You can't protect everyone, Romano. Eventually you have to choose. Your empire or your heart. TikTok. V. Rage and fear warred in his chest. The tattoo across his knuckles seemed to burn as he photographed the message. Boss. Luca appeared in the doorway. We've got something. Traffic cameras caught a vehicle leaving here 2 hours ago. Registered to a shell company, but we traced it to a property on the east side. Send me the address. Alessio. Luca's voice carried warning. It could be a trap. It definitely is. Alessio's smile was cold. Which is why I'm bringing an army. 30 minutes later, 8 vehicles surrounded a decrepit building that had once been a textile factory. Alessio's men moved with military precision, securing exits, clearing rooms. They found Vincenzo Moretti in what used to be the manager's office, sitting calmly behind a desk like he'd been expecting them. He was older than Alessio remembered, silver threading his dark hair, lines carved deep around eyes that held decades of violence. But the predatory intelligence was unchanged. Alessio Romano. You've grown into your father's shadow nicely. Alessio's gun was steady, aimed at Vincenzo's head. You threatened what's mine. The maid. Vincenzo's laugh was cruel. So the rumors are true. The great Alessio Romano, undone by a woman who scrubs floors. Careful. The warning was soft. Or what? You'll kill me. Vincenzo spread his hands. Go ahead. But the moment I stop transmitting a signal every hour, my associate completes a very specific task involving your Bianca and a creative interpretation of medieval torture methods. Ice flooded Alessio's veins. You're bluffing. Am I? Vincenzo's smile was genuine. You've hunted me for 5 years, Alessio. Did you think I survived this long by being careless? I have fail-safes. Contingencies. And right now, your woman's life is balanced on my continued heartbeat. Every instinct Alessio had screamed to pull the trigger. And this. But if Vincenzo was telling the truth, if there was even a chance, what do you want? Now we're negotiating. Vincenzo leaned back, enjoying this. I want what your father took from me. Territory. Respect. The shipping routes through the northern ports. That's half my operation. Yes. And she's your whole heart, isn't she? Vincenzo's eyes glittered. So here's my offer. You have 72 hours to transfer operational control of the northern territories to me. Publicly announce you're stepping back for health reasons. Let me reclaim what should have been mine all along. He paused. Or I send pieces of Bianca Ferraro back to you until there's nothing left to love. The room was silent except for Alessio's measured breathing. You have until midnight 3 days from now. Vincenzo stood slowly. And Alessio, don't bother trying to find my associate. They're very good at staying hidden. Better than I am. He walked past Alessio, utterly confident in his safety. Alessio didn't stop him. As Vincenzo was right. Until Alessio found the associate, the person actually positioned to hurt Bianca. Pulling the trigger was suicide by proxy. His phone rang the moment Vincenzo disappeared. "Boss, we have a problem." Marco's voice was tight. "Bianca is gone." The world stopped. "What?" "She left with your mother 20 minutes ago. Said they were going to the cathedral for afternoon prayers. But Alessio, they never arrived. And Signora Valentina's phone is going straight to voicemail." Alessio's vision tunneled. The warehouse walls seemed to press in. Vincenzo hadn't been bluffing. He'd been stalling. While Alessio wasted time in a trap, someone else had taken everything that mattered. Bianca woke to darkness and the smell of mildew. Her head throbbed. The last thing she remembered was leaving the estate with Valentina, the older woman insisting they light candles at the cathedral for protection. A cloth over her face. Chemical sweetness. Valentina's scream cut short. Now she was somewhere cold, wrists zip-tied behind her back, ankles bound to a chair. Awake. Good. The voice came from shadows Bianca's eyes hadn't adjusted to yet. Familiar in a way that made her skin crawl. A light flickered on. Bare bulb. Concrete walls. And standing before her. Isabella Rossi. No. Not just Isabella. Behind her, bound and gagged but conscious, was Valentina. Surprised. Isabella's smile was vicious. "You should be. Everyone thinks Vincenzo Moretti is the threat. No one suspects the scorned socialite." Bianca's mind raced. "You're working with him." "Working with? Darling, I'm using him. The man's ego makes him easy to manipulate." Isabella circled closer. "He thinks he's orchestrating revenge against Alessio. He doesn't realize I'm the one who fed him information about you. Who suggested targeting the maid to break the boss." "Why?" "Because you humiliated me." Isabella's composure cracked, revealing the rage beneath. "In front of witnesses. Made me look weak. And in our world, weakness is death. So you're going to kill me. Eventually. But first I'm going to destroy Alessio Romano's empire by making him choose." Isabella's eyes glittered. Vincenzo gave him an ultimatum: surrender half his territory or lose you. And here's the beautiful part. Alessio thinks if he gives up the territory I'll let you go. You won't. Of course not. I'm going to take his empire and his heart. Watch him crumble into nothing. She leaned close. And you, sweet Bianca, get to be the knife that does it. Valentina made a muffled sound behind her gag. Isabella laughed. Oh, and his mother gets to watch. Poetic, don't you think? She defended you. Now she gets front row seats to your destruction. Bianca's pulse hammered, but she kept her voice steady. Alessio will find us. Will he? I've been very careful. This location is off every grid. No cameras. No witnesses. And Isabella checked her watch. 68 hours, Alessio will make his choice. When he realizes giving up his empire doesn't save you, when I send him proof that you're already dead, that's when he'll truly break. You're insane. I'm powerful. There's a difference. Isabella pulled out a knife. Now, let's give Alessio something to motivate his decision. She grabbed Bianca's hair, yanked her head back. The blade pressed against Bianca's cheek. Not cutting. Not yet. Just promising. Smile for the camera, darling. A phone flashed. Then Isabella's fist connected with Bianca's face, and darkness swallowed everything again. Alessio's phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. The photo loaded slowly. Each pixel a new horror. Bound to a chair. Blood trailing from a cut on her cheek. Eyes closed. Behind her, his mother, conscious, terrified, gagged. The message below the photo was simple. TikTok Romano. 68 hours. Then I start sending pieces. But Alessio knew that handwriting. Had seen it on social invitations and passive-aggressive notes. Isabella Rossi. She was Vincenzo's associate. The one positioned to hurt what Alessio loved. And she had both women in his life. Trace this number. Now. His voice was dead calm. The kind of calm that preceded massacres. Boss, it's bouncing through 50 proxy servers. We might be able to narrow it down in a day or two, but we don't have a day. Alessio's tattooed hand gripped the phone until the screen cracked. Find them. Use every contact, every favor, every piece of leverage we have. I don't care if you have to burn the entire city to the ground. Find them. His men scattered. Alessio stood alone in his office, staring at the photo that was searing itself into his nightmares. He'd spent his entire life being in control. Reading threats. Eliminating variables. Building an empire on certainty and fear. And in one afternoon, it had all become meaningless. Because the only thing that mattered was tied to a chair, bleeding in a location he couldn't find. His phone rang. Saw the photo, I assume? If they're hurt. They're hurt now, Romano. The question is how much worse it gets. Vincenzo's voice was smug. 68 hours. Sign over the territories, make the public announcement, or Isabella gets creative with her knife skills. Isabella's working with you. Pause. Then, clever boy. Yes. She's been quite useful. Motivated by rage, which makes her delightfully vicious. I'll give you what you want. I know you will. But here's the thing, I don't trust you. So you're going to do it publicly. Tomorrow night. Big announcement. Health reasons. Make it convincing or they suffer. The line went dead. Alessio threw the phone across the room. It shattered against imported marble. Then he sank into his chair and allowed himself 60 seconds of absolute despair. His mother. The woman who'd raised him with love despite the violence surrounding them. Who'd taught him that power without honor was just cruelty. And Bianca. The woman who'd made him believe he could be more than his worst choices. Who looked at him and saw possibility instead of just danger. Both of them paying the price for his enemy's hatred. 60 seconds passed. Alessio stood. Became the man his father had trained him to be. If they wanted his empire, they could have it. But they'd underestimated one crucial thing. An empire could be rebuilt. The women he loved couldn't. The announcement was scheduled for the Romano Estate's Grand Hall. 48 hours after the kidnapping. Every major player in their world would be there. Families, associates, enemies pretending to be friends. The press would cover it. It would be undeniable. Alessio stood before the mirror in his private room, adjusting his tie with hands that didn't shake despite the rage screaming through his system. The tattoos across his skin felt different tonight. Fedeltà soprattutto. Loyalty above all. He'd thought that meant loyalty to the family business. The empire his father built. But he'd been wrong. Loyalty meant protecting what you loved. Even if it cost you everything else. Marco entered quietly. The guests are arriving. Vincenzo sent confirmation he's watching. And he hesitated. Alessio, we found something. Not a location but a pattern. Tell me. Isabella's been purchasing medical supplies. Specifically, things used in field surgery. And she's been researching property records for buildings with basement levels and soundproofing. How many match those criteria? In the city? 47. But if we narrow it to properties she or her family have any connection to, Marco pulled up a map. 3. We can hit all 3 within an hour if we move fast. Alessio's heart hammered. After the announcement. I give them what they want publicly, buy us time, then we move. Alessio, once you make that announcement, there's no walking it back. The families will see it as weakness. Your authority is worth nothing if I lose them. Alessio's voice was flat. Final. I can rebuild power. I can't rebuild the people I love. Marco nodded slowly. Your father would have made the same choice. For your mother. I know. Alessio met his own eyes in the mirror. Let's hope I inherited his ability to win impossible wars. The grand hall was packed. Alessio descended the stairs with the controlled grace that had always marked him. The tattoo on his neck was visible above his collar. The ink across his knuckles caught light as he gripped the podium. Every eye was on him. Thank you for coming. His voice carried across marble and malice. I've called you here to announce a change in leadership structure. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. For the past 5 years, I've managed the Northern Territories with the expectation that our family's legacy would continue unchanged. However, recent events have made me reevaluate my priorities. He could feel Vincenzo's satisfaction from wherever he was watching. Effective immediately, I'm transferring operational control of the northern shipping routes and associated territories too. The lights went out. Every single one. The hall plunged into darkness. Shouts. The sound of weapons being drawn. Then a voice Alessio knew better than his own heartbeat. You really thought I'd sit in a basement waiting to be rescued? Bianca's voice came from the balcony level, amplified by the hall's acoustics. How disappointing. The emergency lighting kicked in. Dimmed dramatic. And there, on the second-floor balcony, stood Bianca Ferraro. Alive. Free. Zip ties dangling from one wrist where she'd obviously broken free. Next to her, equally freed, was Valentina. And between them, hands bound, was Isabella Rossi. Alessio's world tilted. Hello, darling. Bianca's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Miss me? What Alessio didn't know, what no one except Bianca and Valentina knew, was that Isabella Rossi had made a fatal mistake. She'd underestimated what happened when two intelligent, resourceful women were left alone together with 68 hours and a common enemy. She's monologuing again, Valentina had whispered around her, gagged 12 hours into captivity. Villains always monologue. Bianca had nearly laughed despite the zip ties cutting into her wrists. Isabella had been checking on them every 4 hours, always armed, always careful. But she was also arrogant. Convinced they were helpless. The first thing they'd done was work the gags loose using the rough concrete wall behind them. The second was to start testing their bonds. My husband taught me something, Valentina whispered during hour 20. Zip ties have a weakness. If you can get leverage and pull fast enough in the right direction, they'll snap. It took 3 hours and bloodied wrists. But Valentina got free first. Then she freed Bianca. Tao what? Bianca's hands were shaking. She has a gun. We have intelligence. And rage. And the element of surprise. Valentina's eyes were fierce. Also, I know this building. My husband owned it 30 years ago. There's a freight elevator at the back that she doesn't know exists. They'd waited. Planned. And when Isabella came for her next check, confident, cruel, already imagining Alessio's devastation, Bianca hit her with a metal pipe they'd found in the corner. Valentina zip-tied Isabella with her own restraints. And then they'd called Alessio's most trusted lieutenant with instructions. Tell no one. Bring us to the estate. Let Alessio make his announcement. We'll handle the dramatic entrance. The silence in the grand hall was profound. Alessio stared at Bianca like she was a ghost. A miracle. Something his mind couldn't process. How? Your mother is terrifying when properly motivated. Bianca's voice carried across the space. Isabella made the mistake of telling us her entire plan, including the part where she never intended to honor any deal with Vincenzo Moretti. All eyes turned to where Vincenzo stood near the back of the hall. His expression shifted from smug to confused to furious in rapid succession. She was using you, Bianca continued, addressing Vincenzo directly. Planning to eliminate both you and Alessio. Take the northern territories for herself. Frame you for our murders and watch the ensuing war destroy everyone who'd ever underestimated her. Isabella struggled against her bonds. You stupid little maid. Bianca's smile was cold. Yes, I am. Which is why you didn't bother gagging us properly. Why you left us alone together for hours. Why you told us everything assuming we'd die with your secrets. Valentina stepped forward. My son has spent 5 years hunting Vincenzo Moretti. But the real threat was always closer. Always hiding behind social graces and charity luncheons. The crowd erupted. Vincenzo moved toward the exit. Alessio's men blocked him. Everyone stay exactly where you are. Alessio's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The command in it was absolute. Because we're going to settle several debts tonight. He descended from the podium. Crossed the hall to the staircase. Climbed to where Bianca stood, bloodied and defiant and so beautiful his chest ached. You escaped. His voice was rough. Wondering. I fought. Her chin lifted. For myself. For your mother. For the life I'm choosing. His hands came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness despite the violence crackling through the room below. You could have run. Once you were free. You could have disappeared. I could have. Her eyes held his. But I love you, you idiot. And I'm done running from the things that scare me. The confession broke something in him. He kissed her there in front of everyone, his world, his enemies, his allies. Kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they broke apart, the hall was silent. Alessio turned Bianca's hand in his and addressed the assembled crowd. Let me be clear about a few things. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Bianca Ferraro is no longer a maid in this house. She's under my protection. My claim. And if anyone... His gaze swept the room, landing on faces that had dismissed her, underestimated her. Anyone touches her, looks at her wrong, or breathes a word of disrespect, they'll discover exactly how creative I can be with suffering. The threat was clear and ambiguous. As for you, he looked at Isabella, still bound on the balcony. You kidnapped my mother. You threatened the woman I love. You orchestrated a scheme to destroy my family. His smile was terrible. I almost respect the ambition. Almost. Alessio, Isabella's composure cracked. We can negotiate. I have resources. Information you need. You have nothing I want. He turned to his men. Take her to the holding facility. Make her comfortable. We'll discuss her future after I deal with Vincenzo. Vincenzo had been trying to slip away during the commotion. He didn't make it far. Alessio's men dragged him to the center of the hall. You wanted my territories, Alessio said quietly. You wanted revenge for my father's sins. You wanted to destroy me. He paused. But you made a mistake. What mistake? Vincenzo spat. You went after the women I love. And in doing so, you showed me something I'd forgotten. Alessio's tattooed hand flexed. That an empire means nothing without people worth protecting. That power is only valuable when it's used to keep safe what matters. He pulled out his phone. Displayed a recording that played on screens throughout the hall. Vincenzo's voice. Yes, I've orchestrated the kidnapping. Once I have Romano's territories, I'll eliminate him and take over his entire operation. The Rossi woman is useful now, but she's too unstable to keep alive long term. The recording continued. Detailing plans. Betrayals. Confirmations of murders Vincenzo had committed over decades. You've been very chatty on unsecured lines, Alessio observed. My technical team thanks you for making their job easy. Vincenzo's face drained of color. The authorities will receive this recording in approximately, Alessio checked his watch. 3 minutes. Along with evidence of your involvement in 17 murders, 6 kidnappings, and enough RICO violations to ensure you never see daylight again. You're turning me over to police? Vincenzo laughed bitterly. You've become soft, Romano. No. I've become smart. Alessio's expression was cold. Killing you makes you a martyr. Your associates would seek revenge and the cycle continues. But destroying your reputation, your freedom, your legacy? Watching you rot in a cell while your empire crumbles and everyone forgets your name. He smiled. That's justice. Federal agents entered the hall on cue. Vincenzo was dragged away, screaming threats that sounded increasingly desperate. When the commotion settled, Alessio turned back to his assembled world. I want to be clear. I'm not stepping down. I'm not transferring territories. The Romano family remains in control. His voice strengthened. But moving forward we do things differently. With more honor. More care for the people who depend on us. He pulled Bianca close, his arm around her waist. This woman taught me that protecting what you love matters more than accumulating power. That genuine courage looks like a maid confronting a socialite to defend someone's dignity. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose vulnerability over violence. The room was silent. So here's your choice. Alessio's gaze swept the gathered families. Accept the new direction or challenge me for leadership. But know this, I've never been more dangerous than I am right now. Because I'm no longer fighting for an empire. I'm fighting for a future worth living. No one challenged him. Later, after the guests had dispersed and the hall had emptied, Alessio found Bianca in the garden. She stood by the fountain where they'd kissed weeks ago, staring at stars that had witnessed everything. Hey. His voice was soft. She turned. Smiled. Hey yourself. He crossed to her, moving slowly. Giving her space despite the desperate need to hold her. You were extraordinary tonight. I was terrified. You were both. He stopped a foot away. Bianca, words failed. When I saw that photo of you bleeding, tied to a chair, you were willing to give up everything. Her hand found his cheek. Your empire. Your legacy. All of it. Without hesitation. Why? Because I love you. The words were simple. Absolute. Because every choice I've made, every calculation, every strategy, none of it means anything if I lose you. Tears shone in her eyes. I love you too. So much it terrifies me. We'll be terrified together. She laughed wetly. Is that your idea of romance? No. This is. He dropped to one knee. The movement was so unexpected, so utterly not what Bianca had been expecting that she gasped. I don't have a ring yet. His tattooed hands took hers. I didn't plan this. But Bianca Ferraro, I'm done waiting for the perfect moment. You are the perfect moment. Every second with you is. Alessio. Let me finish. His voice was rough with emotion. I'm offering you a complicated life. A dangerous world. A man who will probably make mistakes and definitely has blood on his hands. But I'm also offering you absolute devotion. Protection. A love so fierce it rewrites my entire code. He paused, looking up at her with eyes that held universes. Marry me. Not because I'm a mafia boss. Not because it's strategic or safe or sensible. Marry me because we're both damaged and brave and stupid enough to believe love can survive in the darkest places. He was crying openly now. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a no? That's a yes, you idiot. She pulled him to his feet, kissing him through tears and laughter. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The kiss deepened. Became something that promised forever. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alessio pressed his forehead to hers. I'm getting you the biggest, most ridiculous ring in existence. I don't need. I know. But I want to. I want everyone who looks at your hand to know you're claimed. Of mine. The possessiveness should have annoyed her. Instead it felt like safety. Hey. But nothing too ostentatious. So, medium ostentatious? She laughed against his chest. You're impossible. And you're stuck with me now. I can live with that. They stood in the garden as stars wheeled overhead, two people who'd found each other in the spaces between violence and grace. Alessio. Bianca's voice was quiet. What happens now? With Isabella and Vincenzo? His jaw tightened. Vincenzo will spend the rest of his life in federal prison. Isabella. He paused. I'm giving her a choice. Exile, she leaves the country, never returns, lives quietly somewhere far from here. Or she faces trial for kidnapping and attempted murder. You're letting her choose? I'm letting her live. Which is more mercy than she deserves. His arms tightened around Bianca. But I'm done being defined by revenge. I want to build something better. With me. With you. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. I have one condition. Anything. Your mother stays with us. In whatever house we build together. She's family. Alessio's expression softened. She'd love that. Though she'll probably rearrange all the furniture and lecture me about proper orchid care. Good. Someone needs to keep you humble. That's your job now. Lucky me. He kissed her again. Slower this time. Savoring. When they finally went inside, Valentina was waiting in the conservatory, smiling like she'd orchestrated the entire universe. I assume congratulations are in order? How did you? Bianca started. Please. I've been planning this wedding since you defended me against Isabella. Valentina hugged them both. Welcome to the family officially, Cara. Though you've been ours since the moment you spoke. 3 months later. The wedding took place in the Romano Estates garden, under a canopy of lights that looked like captured stars. Bianca wore a dress that cost more than she'd earned in 5 years of working as a maid. But when Alessio saw her walking down the aisle, escorted by Valentina who was crying with undisguised joy, the price became irrelevant. He was devastating. Beautiful. The ceremony was small. Intimate. Just family and the few people they trusted absolutely. Father Dominic performed the service, his voice carrying benediction and hope. Do you, Alessio Giovanni Romano, take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife? I do. No hesitation. Absolute certainty. And do you, Bianca Maria Ferraro, take this man? I do. She didn't wait for the question to finish. Laughter rippled through the assembled guests. Then by the power vested in me, Father Dominic smiled. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Alessio, you may kiss your bride. He did. Thoroughly. While their guests cheered and Valentina wept happy tears. When they broke apart, Bianca whispered against his mouth, "I love you. I love you more." Competitive even in this? Especially in this. The reception lasted until dawn. Music and dancing and toasts that ranged from heartfelt to scandalous. But the moment Bianca would remember most came late in the evening. She and Alessio had stolen away to a quiet corner of the garden. He'd shed his jacket. His shirt was rolled to his elbows, revealing those tattooed forearms that had first captured her attention. "Happy?" he asked. Deliriously. "Good." He pulled her close, swaying to music only they could hear. "Because I plan to keep you this happy for the next 60 years. Only 60? I'm being conservative. Might be 70. 80 if we're lucky." She laughed, resting her head on his chest. Feeling his heartbeat steady and sure beneath her cheek. "Alessio." Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. When everyone else looked through me. For making me believe I was worth protecting. Worth loving." His arms tightened. "Bianca, you saved me long before I saved you. You gave me a reason to be more than my worst choices. You made me want to build instead of just defend." "We saved each other then." "Yes." He kissed the top of her head. "We did." They danced in the garden until the first light of dawn painted the sky gold. And in that light, Bianca saw their future spreading out before them. Complicated, dangerous, beautiful. A love built on honesty and sacrifice and the absolute certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. 6 months after the wedding, Bianca stood in the bathroom, staring at the positive pregnancy test with a mix of terror and joy. She was pregnant. With Alessio Romano's child. The enormity of it crashed over her. This life they were creating, this future they were building, this tiny person who would inherit both her resilience and his intensity. "Bianca." Alessio's voice came from the bedroom. "You okay? You've been in there a while." She opened the door. Held up the test wordlessly. For 3 seconds he just stared. Then his expression transformed. Shock melting into wonder, melting into fierce, protective joy. We're pregnant." "Yes." Her voice wavered. "I know we didn't plan this so soon, and with everything that's happened." He crossed the space between them in 2 strides. Pulled her into his arms with a gentleness that belied his strength. "We're having a baby." His voice was rough with emotion. "Bianca, we're having a baby. You're happy." "I'm terrified and ecstatic and already planning how to baby-proof a house that contains more weapons than most military installations." He pulled back to look at her. "But yes. I'm happy. Deliriously, impossibly happy." She laughed through tears. "Me too." His tattooed hand settled on her still flat stomach with reverence. "Hello, little one. Your mother is the bravest person I know. And you're going to be so loved. So protected. So absolutely cherished." "Alessio. I'm going to be a father." The realization seemed to hit him fully. "Oh God. I'm going to be a father. What if I mess this up? What if I'm too much like my father? What if—" "Hey." She cupped his face, making him look at her. "You're going to be an amazing father. You're protective and devoted, and you've already proven you'll sacrifice everything for the people you love." She smiled. "Our child will be the luckiest kid in the world. They'll have your courage. And your loyalty. Your kindness. Your strength." They stood there, holding each other, contemplating the impossible beautiful future they were creating. "We should tell your mother," Bianca said. "She's going to cry. She's going to plan the entire nursery before we leave the room." "Probably." They told Valentina that evening over dinner. The older woman did indeed cry. Then she hugged them both so fiercely that Alessio laughed. "A grandchild." Valentina's voice was wonder and joy. "Oh, Car, this is the best news. The absolute best." "You're not worried?" Bianca asked. "About bringing a child into this world?" "Our world." "Every world is dangerous, Bianca. But not every child gets to be raised by parents who love as fiercely as you two do." Valentina's smile was knowing. This baby will be protected, cherished, and taught that true power comes from love, not fear. "Like you taught Alessio," Bianca said softly. "Like we'll teach them together." Valentina took both their hands. "Because family isn't just blood. It's the people who choose to love you through everything." 9 months later. The baby arrived during a thunderstorm that rattled windows and made the estate feel like a ship in a tempest. Alessio had never been more terrified in his life. He'd faced down enemies, survived assassination attempts, made decisions that risked everything. But watching Bianca in labor, in pain, exhausted, fighting to bring their child into the world, shattered every bit of his control. "You're doing so well, amore." His voice was rough, hand gripping hers as she squeezed hard enough to bruise. "So strong. So brave." "I hate you," she gasped between contractions. "I know. This is your fault. Completely. I'm never," she screamed as another contraction hit. "Never letting you touch me again." "Okay. I mean it. I believe you." The midwife smiled. "Almost there, Bianca. One more push." Bianca bore down with a strength that awed him. And then, a baby's cry. "Healthy. Perfect. It's a girl," the midwife announced. "A beautiful, healthy girl." Alessio's vision blurred with tears as the midwife placed the tiny, squalling bundle on Bianca's chest. "Oh," Bianca breathed. "Oh, look at her. Alessio, look at our daughter." He looked, and fell in love for the second time in his life. She was tiny, wrinkled, furious at being evicted from her warm home. But absolutely, completely perfect. "She has your eyes," Bianca whispered. "She has your spirit. Listen to her complain." Bianca laughed weakly. "What should we name her?" They discussed names for months, argued playfully over family traditions and modern choices. But now, looking at their daughter's scrunched-up face, Alessio knew. Sophia, after the Greek word for wisdom. Because she's going to be brilliant like her mother. Sophia Romano. Bianca tested the name. Smiled. "Perfect. She's perfect." The baby quieted, seeming to recognize her mother's voice. Alessio traced a gentle finger down his daughter's impossibly soft cheek. "Hello, Sophia. I'm your papa. And I promise," his voice cracked, "I promise to protect you and love you and show you that the world can be beautiful even when it's dark." "We both promise," Bianca added. "You're so loved, little one. So very, very loved." Valentina entered moments later, tears already streaming down her face. "May I?" she asked softly. Bianca carefully transferred the baby to her grandmother's arms. Valentina gazed at Sophia with absolute wonder. "She's beautiful. Just beautiful. And look, she has the Romano chin. She's going to be stubborn." "Wonderful," Alessio deadpanned. "Two stubborn women in my life." "Three," Valentina corrected. "Don't forget me." They laughed, cried, marveled at the tiny person who'd already changed everything. Later, after Valentina had left and Sophia was sleeping in her bassinet, Alessio lay beside Bianca on the hospital bed. "You were incredible," he murmured. "I've never seen anything so powerful. I threatened to divorce you at least 7 times. "Only 7? I counted 12. She smiled, exhausted but radiant. "We made a human, Alessio. An actual person." "We did." He took her hand, brought it to his lips. The tattoos on his knuckles pressed against her skin. Those permanent marks of loyalty and silence and power that had defined him for so long. "I love you, Bianca Romano. More than words can capture." "I love you too." She yawned. "Even though you did this to me. Technically, we did this together. Next time you're carrying the baby. Deal." She fell asleep smiling. Alessio stayed awake, watching over his wife and daughter with a protectiveness that was both fierce and tender. He'd built an empire on violence and fear. But these 2 sleeping women who'd rewritten his entire understanding of strength. This was his real legacy. Love forged in darkness but strong enough to create light. 5 years later, the Romano garden had been transformed into a wonderland for Sophia's 5th birthday party. Balloons, streamers, a ridiculous castle-shaped cake that Valentina had insisted on. And in the center of it all, a little girl with her father's dark eyes and her mother's fierce spirit, commanding her kingdom with the confidence of someone born to power but raised with love. "Papa." Sophia ran to Alessio, tugging on his hand. "The magician is here." "Is he?" Alessio swept her up, making her giggle. "And is he any good?" "He made a rabbit appear. A real one. Impressive." Bianca appeared beside them, their 1-year-old son, Marco, named after Alessio's father but determined to forge his own gentle path, balanced on her hip. Your daughter has invited 47 children and their parents, she informed Alessio. Our quiet family birthday has become a political summit. She's networking early. I'm proud. You're impossible. And you love me anyway. Tragically, yes. Sophia wiggled to be put down. Nonna Valentina is teaching everyone to make flower crowns. Come on. She grabbed both parents' hands, dragging them toward where Valentina sat surrounded by children, patiently showing them how to weave stems together. Alessio watched his mother, older now, silver completely taking over dark hair, but still vibrant, still strong, and felt gratitude so profound it ached. You okay? Bianca asked quietly. More than okay. He pulled her close, careful not to squish Marco. I was just thinking about how far we've come. From maid and mafia boss to this? From broken and afraid to this. She leaned into him. Best journey I've ever taken. Even though it involved kidnapping and death threats? Especially because of that. Makes the happy ending sweeter. Marco babbled something that might have been cake, or might have been gibberish. Your son is wise beyond his years, Alessio observed. He gets that from me. Debatable. They stood together watching their children play, surrounded by family and friends and the life they'd built from ashes and hope. Bianca. Alessio's voice was soft. Thank you. For what? For defending my mother all those years ago. For being brave when I was frozen. For choosing to trust me when you had every reason to run. For loving me even though I'm... She turned, silencing him with a kiss. You're my everything, Alessio Romano. The dark and the light. The violence and the devotion. All of it. She smiled against his mouth. And I'd choose you again. Every single time. Even knowing how it all turns out. Especially knowing how it all turns out. They kissed again, soft and sweet, while their children played and the garden filled with laughter. And somewhere in the house, pressed between the pages of a poetry book Bianca still read on quiet mornings, was a faded photo from their wedding day. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness. Who'd fought through fear and danger and impossible odds. Who'd chosen love when logic said it was foolish. And who'd built a family, complicated, fierce, beautiful, from the wreckage of their pasts. In the end, that was their story. Not a fairy tale. Not simple. Not safe. But absolutely, completely, devastatingly real. And it was everything. The end. She defended his mother when the world demanded silence. He protected her when loyalty cost everything. Together they proved that the deepest love grows in the darkest places. Fierce, complicated, and utterly unbreakable.